At dinner, she said, "I remember my ex and I used to come here all the time," then laughed, talking about their old dates like I wasn't even there. I smiled and said, "Then maybe he should be the one driving you home." I dropped her off halfway and went out with my friends instead. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Dinner at the Italian restaurant was almost over. I thought it was the right time to give her the gift. A silver bracelet with a black pearl I'd picked carefully. It was meant to mark our 5th date. I reached into my jacket pocket and held the small velvet box. "Qley, I have something," I started, but as she kept talking, I quietly slipped the box back, fingers tightening around it for a second before I let go. She didn't even look at me. "Oh, this place," she smiled, looking around. "I haven't been here in years. Jake and I used to sit right there." Her voice softened, lost somewhere between past and present, like she'd forgotten I was there at all. She kept talking, describing old dinners, old jokes, all with him. I nodded a few times, pretending to listen, but it was clear. I wasn't really part of this evening. When the check came, she smiled like nothing was wrong. I paid, stood up, and walked her out. She slipped her arm through mine as if everything was fine, but I already knew it wasn't. I've never been someone who reacts out of emotion. I've always lived by structure. Blueprints, clean lines, everything in its place. Maybe that's why emotional chaos unsettles me so easily. That's how I've always handled relationships too. You observe, you understand, and when things stop making sense, you step back. That night when I pulled my hand out of my pocket without giving Qley the bracelet, it wasn't an emotional move. It was a quiet decision. A line drawn. She wasn't ready to move on, and I wasn't interested in competing with someone who wasn't even there. We walked out of the restaurant like any normal couple. She looped her arm around mine, humming softly, unaware of what had just shifted. I didn't say much on the way to the car. Inside, she started talking again. Small talk at first, then more stories about her past. She didn't notice how each sentence pushed me further away. So I turned the radio down and let the road noise do the talking. Every "Jake used to" felt like a small crack spreading quietly through what we'd built. I looked straight ahead while driving, nodding occasionally. It wasn't anger I felt, just a quiet realization that I was done. There's always a quiet moment when something inside you shifts, and you just know it's over. She scrolled through her phone, showing me photos of places they used to go. "We had so much fun that summer," she said, smiling at the screen. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. It was strange how she could talk so freely about another man in front of me, like I didn't exist in that context. Maybe she didn't even realize what she was doing. Or maybe she did and didn't care. Either way, it told me everything I needed to know. I thought about how things started between us. She was confident, funny, full of ideas. I liked that. She talked about wanting something real, stability, trust, calm. I thought I could give her that. But sitting next to her that night, I understood that she was still tied to something unfinished. She wasn't looking for peace. She was trying to quiet a part of her that never stopped echoing. The drive home felt longer than usual. The silence between her words grew heavier, and even she seemed to sense something was off. She asked if I was okay, and I said, "I'm fine." I wasn't lying. I really was fine. I just didn't feel anything anymore. People talk about heartbreak like it's tears shouting closure. Mine was quieter, a light going out, and knowing you won't turn it back on. By the time we left the main streets and entered the quieter roads near the suburbs, I had already made my decision. I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't argue or explain. I would just end it in a way that matched how it died, calmly. She kept talking about nothing in particular, unaware that the person beside her had already left the conversation a long time ago. And as the night stretched on, I felt lighter. Not happy, not relieved, just clear. We had been driving for a while, maybe 20 minutes, when she spoke again. Her voice cut through the quiet like a song you didn't ask to hear. "Look, that cafe," she said, pointing out the window. "Jake and I used to go there every Sunday. He loved the tiramisu. It was like our thing. I didn't say anything. I didn't even look. My hand stayed on the wheel, steady. She kept talking for a bit before realizing I wasn't responding. Then she turned to me. "You're quiet. Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." She nodded and looked back out the window. Completely unaware, a few minutes later, I saw the lights of a gas station ahead, small dim. the kind that stays open all night for truck drivers and lost travelers. I slowed down and pulled in. She frowned. Why are we stopping? I parked the car near the edge of the lot and turned off the engine. Let's stop here, I said quietly. She blinked, confused. What? Get out of the car, Qley, she laughed nervously. You're kidding, right? Here? It's late. I'm not kidding. Her smile faded. Liam, what's going on? Because this is where we end, I said quietly. You've spent all night with someone who isn't me. I nodded toward the bright sign. There's a taxi stand right there. You'll be fine. She shook her head. You can't be serious. This is insane. It's not insane, I said calmly. It's honest. Honest? She repeated, her voice rising. You're dumping me at some random gas station in the middle of the night, and you think that's honest? Yes, I said, because there's no point pretending anymore. You're not here with me, Qley. You're with him, and in every story, every memory. I'm just the one sitting next to you. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You're unbelievable. You think you're some kind of hero teaching me a lesson? I didn't respond. I unlocked her door instead. You can call a cab. Or call Jake. I'm sure he'll come get you. Her face changed from disbelief to anger. You're a piece of work, you know that. You think this makes you strong. It makes you pathetic. I looked at her then just once. Maybe, but I'd rather be pathetic than invisible. That seemed to hit her. For a second, she didn't say anything. Then she grabbed her purse, yanked the door open, and stepped out. Before closing it, she shouted, You'll regret this. The sound echoed across the empty lot. I didn't look at her. I started the car and drove away. Through the mirror, I saw her standing under the fluorescent light, arms crossed, her phone in her hand. Then she was gone from view. The road ahead was empty, dark, peaceful. I rolled down the window and let the cold air hit my face. My chest felt heavy, but not in a painful way, just full of something final. People might say what I did was harsh. Maybe it was. But I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just refused to keep playing a part in a story that wasn't mine. As I drove, I thought about how easy it is to get stuck in someone else's past, how you can be present, giving your time and attention, while the other person is somewhere else entirely. It's not about jealousy. It's about absence. When you're with someone who keeps reaching backward, you eventually realize they're not holding your hand. They're holding a memory. The silence in the car was deep. For the first time all night, I felt calm. There was no anger, no regret, just clarity. When I reached the edge of the city again, I stopped at a red light and caught my reflection in the window. I looked tired but steady. I knew that whatever came next, at least I'd been honest, with her and with myself. I didn't check my phone. I didn't need to. I knew she'd call and I knew I wouldn't answer. That was the first night in a long time I didn't feel like I was trying to prove anything. Not my patience, not my value, not my ability to understand. I just drove, heading nowhere in particular, until the feeling of her voice finally faded from my head. After I left her at the gas station, I drove straight to a small bar where my friends were hanging out. It was the usual place, low music, familiar faces. When I walked in, Ethan looked up and grinned. How'd the date go? Bad, I said. They could tell I wasn't joking, so I told them everything. The dinner, the bracelet I never gave, the stories about her ex, and finally the gas station. I told it calmly, like reporting a work issue, not a breakup. At first, they just stared at me. Then came the reactions. You actually left her there? At midnight? Damn, man. That's cold, I shrugged. Maybe. But I wasn't going to sit there one more minute listening to her talk about Jake. After a while, they got it. A few even laughed. You did the right thing, Ethan said. At least you ended it clean. Most people would drag that kind of thing on for months. I didn't drink much, just one beer. I wanted to keep my head clear. My phone kept lighting up on the table, her name flashing over and over. I ignored it. We stayed there for another hour, talking about work, random stuff, nothing important. By the time I got home, it was close to 1 a.m. As I parked, I noticed a car down the street with its headlights on. Someone was leaning against it, talking on the phone. It took me a second to realize it was Qley. I sighed and watched for a moment. She looked upset, pacing, waving her hand as she talked. Even from a distance, I could hear her voice rising. I didn't get out of the car right away. I just sat there, windows up, lights off. Then I heard her shout, her tone sharp, angry. She was arguing with someone, and not me. A few seconds later, she screamed, "Put him on the phone then," and started cursing. Then silence. Her voice dropped and I heard her say, "Who the hell are you?" Pause. Then another voice came through the speaker, loud enough for me to catch pieces of it. A woman's voice, harsh, furious. It didn't take much to put it together. She'd called Jake, but his wife, or maybe girlfriend, was the one who picked up. The woman on the other end started shouting. I couldn't hear every word, but the tone was clear: accusation, disgust, anger. Qley yelled back for a bit, then broke down crying. I sat there just watching from the car. Not because I enjoyed it, it just felt surreal. Everything I'd suspected about her that night was right there, playing out like proof. After a few minutes, she threw her phone on the ground and got into her car. She stayed there for a while, motionless. Then she drove off fast, tires screeching a little as she turned the corner. I didn't follow. I didn't text. I just went inside, washed up, and went to bed. Before sleeping, I thought about what I'd seen, how predictable it all was. Some people can't let go of the past, no matter how much you try to build something new with them. It's not that they want to hurt you. They just don't know how to stop repeating the same story. And I realized I'd been lucky. Ending it when I did saved me from being part of that mess. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight was already coming through the blinds. My phone was still on the nightstand, lighting up with notifications. I took a deep breath, made coffee first, and only then picked it up. There were missed calls and a string of messages from Qley. The first one was short and full of rage. "You're unbelievable. I had to find my own way home last night. I hope you're proud of yourself." Then another one, a little softer. "Okay, maybe I said too much, but what you did was still wrong." By 8 in the morning, the tone had changed completely. "Liam, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called him. I wasn't thinking. Can we talk?" And finally, the last one. "I called Jake last night." His wife answered. She screamed at me, said things I can't repeat. "I feel so stupid." I just wanted to hear his voice, and it blew up in my face. "You were right. You were the only one who actually cared about me. Please, can we start over?" I stared at the messages for a while. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. It all just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't over her past, and she had no idea what she really wanted. I typed slowly, no hesitation, no second thoughts. "Qley, I'm not your backup plan. I hope you figure out what you're looking for. But please don't contact me again." Then I hit send, blocked her number, and put the phone down. On the table sat the small velvet box I never opened. I picked it up and looked at the bracelet inside. Silver with a single black pearl. It still looked perfect, untouched, waiting for the right person. I closed the box and put it away in a drawer. Maybe one day I'd give it to someone who actually lived in the present, not in a memory. I finished my coffee, opened my laptop, and started working. The world felt ordinary again, and maybe that was peace, not joy, just the quiet kind that comes when you finally let go. For the first time in a while, I wasn't thinking about what could have been. I was just, okay. And that morning, sitting there with sunlight spilling across the table, I knew I'd finally done exactly that.